I believe we need to acknowledge the storm that is with us. It's not just coming, it's present. People have openly declared that they would like to see the Catholic Church gone. But by taking time to pray with our Lord before a tabernacle where He's present in the tabernacle, that has strengthened my faith. It's given me His power to be willing to speak His truth no matter what voices are saying, stop speaking this.
Hey, I'm Jim Havens. Good to meet you. I host a radio show called The Simple Truth, where we pursue the good, true, and beautiful and proclaim the life-giving reality of Jesus and His Catholic Church. Stick around. If you like it, give it a thumbs up and let us know what you think in the comments below. Bishop, you put out a reflection on June the 5th entitled A Sacred Pause. And again, it begins, you give a little a verse from Psalm 33, and then you say, quite provocatively, there is a storm coming, the likes of which has never been seen upon the earth. It grabs the attention, but I don't think you're just putting that out there to grab attention and get us interested. I think you mean it. I think you're serious here in what you're saying, and you unpack this throughout the writing. Where did this come from, the impetus to sit down and write on this topic? And maybe, if you can just unpack it a bit for us.
Well, I just felt the need, as you mentioned, Jim, celebrating these holy days of our faith, the Sacred Heart, the Immaculate Heart of Mary, Pentecost, all of this, the coming toward the end of the Easter season. We obviously have much to celebrate, joy of our faith, but we have to acknowledge the reality of evil that is out there. And many are caught up in it. There are many issues in the world of sexuality, of the life issues that are just deeply troubling. And I guess one contrast that I was aware of as I worked on this letter about the Sacred Heart and about turning to God in the midst of the storm. I'm sure we've talked about before, because I talk about it all the time, the vision of St. John Bosco, the church as a ship in a storm, with the anchor pillars being the Eucharist and the Blessed Virgin Mary, our Lord really present in the Eucharist, and the Immaculate Virgin Mary, His mother, who has over and over and over again spoken to us about simply living the truth of our faith, turning from sin and living the gospel. And so I was prompted because I think, yes, I believe we need to acknowledge the storm that is with us. It's not just coming, it's present. We all lament the lack of Catholics believing in the Eucharist, the lack of participation in Mass. I mean, I'm sure we've both seen and talked about a lot of the kind of depressing laundry list of collapse of the church in many ways. And some people go through that laundry list and sort of celebrate that finally Catholicism, that they've wanted eliminated from human society for a long time. I mean, people have openly declared that they would like to see the Catholic Church gone. We know that it never will be, because our Lord Jesus Christ, we have a divine guarantee that the church will continue. But that guarantee doesn't extend to any of us individually, like we were talking about before. We all have an obligation to seek deeper conversion. And I guess it was in that effort that I tried to write this letter to remind us evil is real, but the grace that Christ has unleashed on the world through His life, death, and resurrection has overpowered evil, sin, and death. I've had many conversations, and people say, well, Bishop, how can so many evil things continue if Christ has conquered evil? Well, it all comes down to basically free will. God has not withdrawn the gift and the blessing that comes from God of our individual free will. It brings with it a tremendous responsibility that we all have to guard our own heart and soul, to turn from sin, and to live the truth of Christ more deeply. But each of us has the free will. That's the only way it can work. I mean, if we weren't free from God. If he hadn't created us free, then we couldn't attain the heights that are possible for us. And again, the saints inspire us to know. I was so glad to hear that Carlo Acutis is going to be canonized. What a great sign of hope for all of us, and especially for teenagers. To have a young man, a teenager, a saint, laid out incorrupt in a soccer uniform. I mean, it's, only God could offer such an image in this time when so many make sports and the activities of teenagers can idolize sports figures and idolize rock stars. And for a saint to be saintly, but a real teenage young man playing soccer, enjoying life, but also knowing the Lord deeply. I think it's a beautiful sign that, like this letter talks about, the Sacred Heart of Christ is beating a rhythm of love that is the greatest power on earth. And that's what we all need to plug into. I know for myself, Eucharistic adoration is a great source of that power. And really, Jim, I would say, I'm no great shakes anyway, but if I've been able to do anything worthwhile in my life as a bishop, it's because I've come to know our Lord in the Eucharist more deeply. And that, again, is not a done deal. It's not like, well, I've arrived at the mountaintop and I can just coast. I still have a long way to go, but by taking time to pray with our Lord, really present in Eucharistic adoration and before a tabernacle where he's present in the tabernacle, that has strengthened my faith and given me greater joy. It's given me his power to be willing to speak his truth no matter what voices are saying, stop speaking this. And that's really what this, really all of my writings, if they're worthwhile, they flow from being with our Lord and his Sacred Heart. With the intercession, I don't discount in any way the help of the Blessed Virgin Mary, praying the Rosary, reflecting on those mysteries. Mary tells us that she will help us if we will humble ourselves, turn from sin, and pray. That's all I'm trying to do, and I'm doing it still very imperfectly, but incrementally, I make progress. I'm still a sinner. I need to go to confession often. I try to do that very often, and I encourage everyone. If anyone is listening that feels a little exasperated and just doesn't have the energy, absolutely pray before our Lord in his Eucharistic presence. Get to know his Eucharistic face more deeply in your life. And I will wager that if you really do that, and if you take the time, I know it's happened for me, then you're going to be more aware of your sin, not hopeless because of it, but just know that I need to get to confession. I need to more and more turn from sin. I need to continue to seek to purify my life of whatever sins, whatever inclinations to sin, whatever temptations I'm burdened with. And all of us are burdened with temptations of sin, and we fall to that. I fall more often than I wish I did, but I'm called to continue faithfully to make progress. And again, mentioning the saints, they're not, as long as they're human beings, they're not sinless, perfect people. They may be much further from sin than I am, but the saints won the race. They fought the good fight. They embraced the final perseverance that we're all called to. Some of them for a lifetime, some of them toward the end of their life embrace sanctity. But I think it's a reminder to us that as human beings, we can all fall into sin. And if we think we've reached some level of sanctity, we probably need to really pray harder, because pride can get in there and make us think, oh, I'm great, I'm doing fine. When in the Lord's perspective, we may have serious things we still need to address. So that's what this letter is about. Not despairing, but being aware of the storm and knowing who is master of the ship of the church, who is leading us, who will never desert us. We may feel that he's asleep in the boat, but it's our obligation to awaken ourselves more clearly, to see more powerfully that the Lord is with us, even if by divine providence evil is allowed because people are choosing it, and he's not going to intervene and manipulate the world out of our hands. We're called to shape this creation all the way back to Adam and Eve. We're called to shape it according to his grace, according to the light that his son brings. But the Lord leaves us free, and we all do make other choices. Too many atheists in the world don't believe in God at all. And those who believe in God, all of us are at different levels of not believing as deeply as we should. And I include myself. I need to grow in faith.
Was that a helpful video for you? I sure hope so. That's why we do this show, to help real people get real results, advancing in the way, the truth, and the life that we're made for. It's called The Simple Truth. It's a radio program Monday through Friday, and we live stream it right here on this channel. Make sure to subscribe, like, and share if you would be so kind. And if you like that last video, here's another one I think you might get a lot out of.